Hey everybody, welcome back. David Eon and the Stunning Miss Lady Pop Hunter here with another nostalgia discussion. Kind of fading nostalgia discussion.
Yeah, mainly do you remember?
Yeah, do you remember? Because it seems to us, and we were talking about this the other day, you know, you watch TV and you watch movies, even old shows like old sitcoms and things like that, and the things that they had or did in those sitcoms or dramas or movies or whatever, and especially modern films, when they talk about the 70s and they talk about the 80s, there's a lot of things that they show and that they tell us was common in those times that we never saw or hardly ever saw growing up. They make it sound like, oh, this happened every day in the 80s, and this is how kids did this, and this is how adults did that. And looking back on it and saying, you know, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
I don't remember that at all.
And from me and David's perspective, I grew up, many of y'all know from watching the TV, in the middle of nowhere, South Carolina. Mm-hmm. Nothing around us, very small town. It was like a community, not a town. Yeah. David grew up in Boston, metropolitan area, millions of people in the city.
Yeah, I was in a very urban environment.
Right. So between the both of us on both extremes, we talked about this and had the same idea. No, I never saw that. I didn't remember. Not saying that these things didn't happen somewhere in America or somewhere in the world. It's just not as popular as TV shows, movies made it out to be.
Yeah, you could have very likely experienced this, but even if you did, was it a regular occurrence? Yeah. Or just a one-time thing, or just a couple of times? You know, we're not discrediting that this sort of thing didn't happen, but it just occurred to us that it didn't seem to happen at the very least with any kind of frequency that they want to make it seem like it was just normal everyday life in the 70s or 80s.
Yeah, yeah. So we got a list. We wrote a list. Because once we started talking, we went through different things that we saw commonly on movies and TV shows. Yeah. And we were like, you know, did you experience that? Did you see that? Some of them we did, but not as much as the TV made you think it was happening. Yeah, because
young people nowadays are probably watch some of this stuff, and they were like, wow, they did that every day? And no.
And my belief, and I do believe this, when you watch TV, modern TV for your time, it's supposed to reflect the current trend, fashions, things that's going on at that time, ideals, beliefs that are going on at that time. So if a person 100 years from now got some film footage of TV shows from 2022, they're going to think, oh, that's what they did, that's what they wore, that's what they listened to, that's what they believed.
Not necessarily.
Exactly. Yeah. When you watch TV and it's reflecting, what's that, Beaver, Leave It to Beaver, and Dennis the Menace, you think, okay, that's what kids played with, that's what they listened to, that's how families operated, that's what they believe, because that's supposed to be what they portray. Yeah,
it's supposed to be a societal reflection. And as time has moved forward, television especially television and film, has gotten further away from what could be construed as reality, as opposed to how it actually was. Like if you watch the old Honeymooners, and they were trying to adopt a baby, and they went and they borrowed an icebox from one of their neighbors in their real tiny ass apartment, because they had a small place, and they didn't have it. They had a traditional icebox because they still sold ice blocks in those days. Not everybody had a refrigerator, but to have a refrigerator, which this is the truth apparently, was a requirement for if you were going to adopt at that time period. And so they were reflecting reality. Okay, they live in a crappy small apartment in this huge freaking building. They didn't have a refrigerator. They were still buying ice. They borrowed a Freon refrigerator from a neighbor. That's a reflection of something you might actually see. Even like you said, Leave It to Beaver. That's how people dressed.
Yeah.
You know, some of the things they did were things that you might have done. But as you progress, you get to, say, the Brady Bunch. And the Brady Bunch is still a decent show, but now they wanted to depict fashion and they wanted to make the colors stand out. And if you want to be honest about it, a lot of people didn't dress the way that they did. And they had what would have been high-end fashion in those days. An average person wouldn't have been able to afford it.
Yeah.
So, you know, we as we picked that apart, and I guess we can run down the list here.
Yeah, the first one we talked about, because it was everywhere in TV. I remember when I grew up, soapbox making and soapbox races.
Or go-kart,
Yeah, the go-kart races where the kid and their parent made a go-kart. And they went every year. They had the big go-kart race, or soapbox race.
Yeah.
And they went to this high, not cliff, but a hill in the neighborhood
Some
or
kind
in
of
town.
community event.
Yeah, and everybody from the community, and they had to beat so-and-so, and they did this big race, and it was a big thing. I've never seen a go-kart race or somebody making a go-kart, soapbox, whatever you want to call it.
And neither have I. I have never seen nor heard of that. No community picnic, no potato sack race, and shoehorns and all of that like they show on all these shows when the community comes together and has a barbecue. And never ever in my life have I ever seen that. The closest we've ever come is the annual, and this was only in Illinois, the annual neighborhood watch barbecue.
Oh, yeah.
Because the neighborhood watch captain, he would hold the barbecue, and the only reason he did it was because the mayor was required to show up at every barbecue as part of his protocol. And he was only there for like 2 minutes anyway. He'd show up, get out of the car, hey, everybody, gotta go.
They did that in, when I lived in Stone Mountain. Every community that had a neighborhood watch, they had the annual night out or something they called it. I think it's in November or October. It's one date on the calendar, and all neighborhood watches have a thing, and they have a barbecue in their neighborhood.
And they kind of make them do it as part of the...
Yeah. And like he said, the mayor and the chief of police,
and someone dressed
or the
like
sheriff
McGruff.
or somebody, they come out and they wave at everybody. Oh, y'all doing a great job. They get back in the car and they go to the next one. But back to soapbox and go-kart races, I've never seen that, never heard of it actually happening. Now, you might have participated, but on TV, and like I said, David is from a major city. I'm from Nowhereville, South Carolina. And all the in-betweens, we never heard of that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, not that it didn't happen.
Yeah, you may have done that, but we sure didn't.
Yeah. The next one, the science fair.
I have never in my life seen a science fair. Not in any of the schools I attended growing up in the Boston area, and not ever with my kids in Boston or in Kansas have they ever had a science fair in any of their public schools. Maybe that happens in private schools.
Maybe.
Oh no, you know what? My youngest went mostly to private schools when he was young, and they didn't do it either.
Yeah.
So where are the science fairs that we're always seeing on these shows, especially these family sitcoms?
Yeah, and I went to 2 different high schools because when I was in 9th grade, we moved to Florida, Orlando, Florida, and I went to a high school there, and it was no science fair. It wasn't an after-school science fair. It was nothing. So, you always see on TV shows again, commercials, because they got that Amazon commercial, and they have another commercial where the kids are getting ready for the science fair. Go to Amazon, buy all your things you need for the science fair.
Yeah, what science fair? Where is it?
Yeah. And then they had that episode of CSI where the boy was getting ready for the science fair and somebody got murdered. You know, movies, again, TV shows. Never seen a science fair in my life. Never made that little volcano that everybody makes for the science fair.
They even did the science fair on the Brady Bunch. The volcano episodes,
Oh,
a
they did?
well-known one, yeah, because he did it in the in like the den or the kitchen or somewhere, made a huge mess.
Oh, and exploded.
Or, no, was it on the patio? I know he splattered like the cheer squad or something with it when they came over. Marsh's group got covered with mud, but I've never seen that in real life.
No, or somebody making the solar system.
Yeah,
That's another one that's big. You make the whole solar system and the planets are supposed to revolve. I never seen that.
never. That's the other one.
Breakdancing in the street.
Yeah, you know how they always depict, especially in the films,
In the
it's
80s,
like, yeah,
mainly.
people out dancing. And remember, again, I grew up in the Boston area, and even going downtown, and that's Faneuil Hall Marketplace, downtown Boston, and at Government Center, which is the last stop for the Green Line, there's a lot of street performers out there. They're out there playing the guitar. They're out there, juggling and doing all kinds of weird stuff. Never, even at the height of the golden age of rap, which was in the early to late 80s, never, ever saw a breakdancing troupe. Ever.
Yeah.
Downtown Boston, never. And I went to school downtown because I went to Boston High, which was formerly the Abraham Lincoln High School, which is on Arlington Street. And that's like 2 stops away from Government Center. You can walk to Government Center from there easily. So after school, I'd go downtown every day and just hang out. Never saw anything like that. Never. One time in my life that I saw breakdancing outdoor like that. It was in Alston on Harvard Avenue, and there was an opening to an alleyway, and there was some teenagers out there doing that, and there was a group of people watching, and I remember it distinctly because it's the only time in my life, one time ever, that I saw that.
I've never seen street, but again, where I live, you wasn't going to see that kind of thing anyway. But always on TV, people walking down the street, you got a group and they're doing like the breakdance battle, like on breaking almost. And somebody got their radio and they playing music and they go at it breakdancing. The only time I've seen kind of like a breakdance battle is in a nightclub one time. And this was in the I think in the 2000s, and it was these guys, they were in the club and they did the little breakdance battle, and they were good. They were really good. But on the street, never. I've never seen that.
You see it in the films all the time.
All the time. And they can always do these great things like where they slide on their kind of neck head thing.
Yeah.
They do the spins on the head and they do all of these cool things. And I'm like, man, I want to see somebody actually do that.
They made whole movies about that. Breaking.
Yeah, Breaking.
Yeah.
A great movie for
it's fun.
breakdancing.
It's a fun movie.
It is.
It's
really
goofy, but it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's some other TV shows and movies where they had breakdancers in it. Again, the closest I've seen to that, and these guys weren't at that level, is like I said, we were in a nightclub one time, and these guys were breakdancing, but they didn't do the spinning on the head and the sliding across the floor on their neck or nothing like that. But it was still pretty good.
It's always impressive when you got 12 camera angles and 50 shoots. But
yeah, and they cut frame the heck out of it.
They cut frame it so much you can't even tell if they're actually breakdancing or not.
Yeah. The next one is lifelong friends.
And I've known a couple of people that have this, but not everybody does. I think it's actually pretty rare that you have a lifelong friend. It's like, oh, we've been friends since 2nd grade or something like that, like King of the Hill or something.
Yeah,
I've known you since 3rd grade.
They were all 4 of them were friends from kids. My cousin, she has some friends from the 6th grade.
Yeah.
And they're still friends to the point where they call each other. They go out on vacations. One of them live near her right now. They have a constant communication. One of them came to my wedding with her. That kind of thing. So they're still friends. Two of them I know for sure, and they met in the 6th grade. Outside of that, I don't know anybody that
except for us. We're not lifelong.
We ain't lifelong. We met 12 years ago.
This is like the longest friendship I ever had right here. I just I think in my experience, and I'm not just talking about myself, but talking to other people. Most people, they drift apart. They have friendships out of convenience. Friends at work, friends at school, friends here, friends there, and it's a friendship out of convenience. So it's not really. It's more like an acquaintanceship than a friendship, really. Yeah. And it just kind of fades away, or your tastes change. I mean, the people I was friends with when I was a kid, I wouldn't want to still be friends with them now because they probably ain't doing right. But anyways, I've rarely ever seen that, except in real life. I've rarely ever seen that, but in TV and movies, they make it seem like everybody's got that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, they still hanging out. They come over to each other's house. Their kids are uncle this and auntie that, and that's not always the case. And you might say, well, I've been working with this guy for 20 years and we've been friends. Have they ever come to your house? Do they know your kids by name, their birthdays? They know your spouse by name? Do they know their birth date? Or do y'all just work together? You might talk. You talk about sports, but outside of work, you don't know where they live. You don't know anything about them. That's not it's a friend. It's more of acquaintance, because a friend, you know everything about them. You know their birthday, their kids, their family, their thoughts, their ideals, their religion, their likes, their dislikes. But if you just at work and we only talk at work, I don't consider that a friend.
Yeah, that's an acquaintance.
Yeah.
Which ties into the next one, and that is what the Closeknit Families, like the Huxtables on the Cosby Show or something like that, or the Brady family and stuff like that. My family wasn't like that. I know your family was I don't know.
My family.
I've rarely ever seen it, is what I'm suggesting, is like where it seems like the whole family is just happy and gets along and kumbaya. Usually there's a lot of problems, there's a lot of resentment in families. Siblings don't get along, the parents don't get along. You rarely see a family where it's like, oh wow, looks like everybody's got everything together. I've seen it a couple of times, but it's rare in my experience. Yeah,
I mean, on TV, that you like the Huxtables, you say everybody gets along. They talk all the time. They come over. They have holiday meals together.
Yeah.
Nobody has an issue. Nobody has a secret resentment for brother or cousin or anybody like that.
The kids actually respect their parents.
Yeah.
And the parents do right by the children every time.
Yeah, if you call on them, they're there.
Yeah.
That's hard. And most people in their family, they don't have it. They're like, oh, we having a get together. No, I can't make it. I have to work. You don't have to work.
Yeah.
You just don't want to be around. Yeah, you don't want to be around. You don't want to come over for Christmas. You don't want them over to your house for Thanksgiving. You might call every month to say you're alive.
If you do go to a holiday event, it's pure obligation. And you're miserable the whole freaking time.
And you can't wait to leave. And it might be one person in the family you can connect with, and during that time together, y'all sit and y'all talk, y'all have a good time, but outside of that, you don't talk no more, and you go without talking for 10, 15 years, and then a person die, you see each other, oh man, yeah, it's so good to see you.
We'll have to catch up sometime.
Yeah, you catch up.
Maybe.
Yeah. You exchange numbers, but you never call. You exchange emails, but you never write. Or, oh yeah, let me get your Facebook. And then y'all stand there together on your phone and friend each other on Facebook. But then later on, you block them from seeing all your posts. You know, you're not close knit, and it's okay. I mean, you call. You know, maybe if they were to call you and ask you for some help, you might do it, depending on who it is. Other times, you don't want to be bothered.
Yeah,
and that's just the reality of things. It doesn't mean you're an evil, horrible person. The reality is maybe you just grew up and out of that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, my life took a different turn. Y'all are still where y'all were. And the same with the friends. You know, you're here. I've moved on, or I've just want to do something totally different, and I don't want to be a part of whatever you're a part of. And that's just how it goes.
Where are you at there?
We are on...
Yeah, life-changing teachers, like they show often in TV and movies, like
Lean on Me,
Dead Poets Society.
Yeah, and what's
like
that one? Gangsta's Paradise.
And it's like the there's a teacher or a mentor, a counselor or something that has a major impact in the child's life, and I have never experienced that ever.
No.
I don't know that I've ever seen an example of it or spoke to anyone even that was like, you know what, Miss So-and-so or Mr. So-and-so, the gym teacher from like 7th grade really impacted my life when he said this or he did this. Never ever experienced anything like that in my life. Usually my experience with teachers was that they were completely indifferent.
Yeah.
They really just doing their job, and I don't care. And also I have a lot of professional experience in that because I used to work for the Juvenile Justice Authority and saw an even worse aspect of that indifference from the other side. Working closely with schools, with public school, especially counselors and stuff like that, who literally would say things like, yeah, you know, it's absolutely a waste of time to even do this, but I've got so many years in the job. Stuff like that. They not saying that there aren't decent teachers, but I think a lot of them are completely indifferent, and a lot of them almost hate their jobs, but they've been doing it for so long. They're like, what else am I going to do?
Yeah.
You know?
And we used to have teachers in school, and this always got on my nerves. They would say, I don't care if y'all pass or fail.
I've heard that like, too.
Why are you here? If you don't care if we pass or fail, you know. And I guess after a while, you've been a teacher 15, 20 years, you get tired, because some kids might be a joy. They're like, okay, now this kid, they're trying to learn, they're really trying, they struggle, but they try. Others are just in the classroom, you know, and others are cutting up. So it might cause you to be a little disgruntled. I mean, I guess
that's the majority of them. It's glorified babysitting.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you think about it, if you got a degree, let's say you have a master's degree, I actually know somebody who's a teacher, and this is kind of the situation they're in. They feel like their hands are tied because the way that the rules are written, you know, just take a little sidestep here real quick because it came up. The way the rules are written, they couldn't teach the kids the way they wanted to anyways, if they even wanted to. So this person got a master's degree, went to college for 6 years to be a teacher, thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to mold young minds, and come to find that's just not going to happen because that's not the way public school works. Yeah. Now they're 15 years in, plus their internship and their college, right? So that's what, 22 years invested in it. Hates the job now, but what else is she going to do? Yeah. You know, you want to, I'll just start another career. Yeah, okay. What's the point? What? She may as well finish out the last 5 more and get an early retirement. You know, what else are you going to do? So I kind of get that. And even in administration, you know. But anyway, you see the shows like Lean on Me, that other one with the song Gangsta's Paradise, where the girl, she went in there in this urban school and changed the lives of the students, and they all passed the test. Or that one with that principal
That's Lean on Me.
No, with Morgan Freeman.
That's Lean on Me.
Oh, it is Lean on Me, yeah. Which, if you read the accounts of that, is nothing like the film, by the way. And he was thrown out of the public school system and started working for the prison system. He went into corrections because they disbarred him, I believe, from school because of all the problems. But anyways, you get the point.
Yeah.
Where are those teachers? I'm sure there's a few out there, but I never met one.
I don't know why we wrote this one. Group empathy.
Epiphany.
Oh, Epiphany.
Yeah.
Oh, I know why we wrote that. Because you got the movies, what you call it? What's the name of those movies? Those life learning movies, like Breakfast Club.
Oh yeah.
What's that genre called? You know, like Breakfast Club, The Outsiders. What's the genre of movie? Called
Coming of Age.
Coming of Age.
Yeah.
And then in all of the coming of age, you go through. You have an experience together as a group. Mm-hmm. Maybe you are a group of friends and something happened one summer and y'all went through it together, and at the end
collectively came together to an understanding.
Yeah. Or like in the Breakfast Club, they weren't friends at all, but they came together for that one day, and by the end of the day they had a group epiphany. And
that's the most realistic one. Because the important thing, and I think a lot of people miss this about the Breakfast Club, is at the end, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, when they're back in school Monday morning, they don't acknowledge each other.
They look at each other knowingly and kind of like, man.
But you know those people never admitted that they got along after that. You know, we got along there because we had no choice, and we came together on that, but it didn't stay together.
Yeah.
That's probably the most realistic of all the films just because of that.
Yeah, but the group epiphany, you got a group, you and your friends, one day had an experience, a summer or a school year, and by the end of that year, you all come together and like, oh, wow, man.
Common bonding experience.
Yeah, that really brought you together, and then you come up with this ideal or something that like change your life, change your outlook, your thought pattern. Who's had that?
I've never seen that in my life. Not even with adults. Never.
No, not even an adult.
They'll fake it to make it, but it's not really there.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty rare.
And you see that again a lot in coming of age movies, and that's basically what a coming of age movie is about. You go through something together for a period of time, even if it's just a day. Like The Breakfast Club was one day. Other movies like Stand By Me was a few days. But something happens, but nobody has that. Or at least we don't know anybody.
Yeah, I never saw it. Vintage fashion trends. I kind of alluded to that earlier with the Brady Bunch. See, back in the early days of television, they wanted to depict accurate clothing, but and it was with the onset, I think, of more people having color televisions, and they want the brightness to really stand out. And you see this actually. A really good one to experiment with that concept is Gilligan's Island. Started out as a black and white show, but when they got authorized for color, they changed the wardrobe so that it's ultra bright. And if you watch Gilligan's Island, you'll see that. Gilligan's shirt is really red. It pops on the screen. And because of this, because of wanting to make colors jump out in certain shows, to encourage the usage of color television, they would highlight fashions. Yeah. But the fashions that people wore, and even Gilligan's Island, even though the colors were really bright, they're still wearing average clothing. It's nothing spectacular about it. But as you get closer and closer into the 70s, into the 80s and beyond, the fashions are the height of fashion. So like the stuff that you see, I think actually... Anchorman with Will Ferrell. Anchorman is a great depiction of this because the fashions that they wear in it were the kind of stuff that you would find in specialty catalogs in the 70s. And they're crazy looking 70s outfits that they have on in this show, and suits and stuff. But in the 70s, you rarely saw that. You rarely saw it. Unless it was, maybe somebody was dressing up to go to a party or going to a nightclub or something like that, or they were a celebrity. People, t-shirt and jeans or shorts is all I ever saw growing up in the 70s.
Yeah.
On almost everybody. And then in the 80s, all the crazy stuff like you might see in
Saved by the Bell.
Yeah, or with all the super bright colors. I'm going to a high school with like 2,000 students in it, and maybe 2 kids are dressed like that. Not everybody, or you think everybody is dressed like Run DMC in the 80s. You couldn't afford those clothes. You know how much one of those Kango caps cost in the 80s? Kids weren't buying that stuff. No. But they always depict, you have people running around nowadays looking at these old shows and thinking that everybody dressed like Punky Brewster.
Yeah.
Nobody dressed like Punky Brewster in the 80s unless they were really wealthy enough to afford that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and then you watch soap operas. Soap operas are one of the major shows that pushes fashion. But the clothes they wear, you never see it in the street. It's just like when you watch the fashion shows, when they have the fashion week.
Nobody dresses like that. It's all shock value stuff.
They wear that stuff, and you're like, nobody's walking down the street with that thing on. At least put some realistic clothes that would go in the store that somebody can buy.
Yeah.
But, you like you said, you see all of these things on TV and you really believe that's how you dress. Even if it's like Dallas or some soap opera or something like that. Even Columbo has some. And Dark Shadows, because you said about once they changed the color. Once they changed to color on Dark Shadows, now you were able to see what they were wearing. And a lot of times they were wearing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
And every now and then they would put something in there that was different. Like the one girl, she had on I don't know if that was a skirt or a pants, but it was like quilted. It was all big and puffy and everything, but you'll go back and you'll watch it and you're like, wow, that's how they dressed back then?
Oh, the artist's daughter?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. It's like, what has she got on?
And you're like, no, that is not how we dressed back then.
No.
We kind of dressed...
T-shirt and jeans.
Yeah. Or you'll see like somebody coming in from the future and their clothes like, wow, what do you have on? And really, if you were... No, I was going to say if you were to wear something that you wear today, but today everybody's so... The clothes are so ridiculous with boys wearing the super tight pants and their butt showing.
Yeah,
you couldn't go to the 80s and drop them in.
No.
But there was a time.
That would be unacceptable. They'd end up getting arrested.
Yeah.
For a decent exposure, having the ass hanging out like that. But yeah, I mean, you see that nowadays. Everybody's got like the super tight clothes or the ripped jeans and stuff. But it's still not anything that's outlandish.
No, but if you brought a fashion trend from the 70s and put it in today, nobody would look at you like, what do you have on? Those old-fashioned clothes. Nobody cares.
No.
And
this is the one that actually started the conversation, because we were watching Highway to Heaven, and I really like Highway to Heaven, but they had a drug PSA episode where they were talking about drugs in the schools and all this other stuff and blah blah blah, and that's what really got the conversation going, because the way that it's depicted on television with drugs running rampant in public schools and the
drug epidemic,
you acting like there's dealers standing in the hallways in school with a trench coat going, yo, want to buy some crack, my man? And it's like, oh, you don't want this crack? I'm gonna kick your ass. No one ever, while I was growing up, tried to make me drink alcohol, tried to make me use any kind of drugs, marijuana, nothing. And again, remember, when I went to high school, there must have been 2,000 kids in that school. It was a big school, and it's not one of the biggest ones. There's some big high schools, and and I might be exaggerating on the number a bit, but I know there was you know,
there was over 1,000.
Yeah, the high schools were loaded. They were big facilities. Brighton, is it Brighton High? Brighton High was loaded too. It was like a freaking college campus. I didn't go to Brighton High, but it was across the street from my junior high school, which was also a massive school, which was the Taft. I think I went to the Taft in junior high school. But, yeah, I can't remember. It's like a freaking blur, my entire school experience. But no one ever tried to push anything on me. No one ever asked me to buy anything. No one tried to make me take anything. Occasionally, someone would show off that they had a joint. Oh, look, I've got a marijuana joint. Or if somebody asked me they might ask me if I want something. Hey, you want a wine cooler? No, thanks. I don't drink. Okay, no problem. They didn't care.
Yeah.
No one cared. No one tried to make me do anything. There was no, let me see if that's another one that's on here. Yeah, there was no gangs. Like, I mean, there were kids that might have been in gangs in the schools, but they weren't trying to force you to join. They weren't, they weren't in there selling drugs and carrying guns and stuff in the school. This wasn't happening.
Yeah.
So, but you watch it on these shows, and they make it sound like the high school is completely overrun.
Yeah.
It's run by the gangs, and there's like cartels working out of the school selling kilos of cocaine and stuff.
And the mafia runs.
Yeah, I know. The principal works for the mob.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff. And I'm like, I never saw that, even in jumbo-sized high schools in Boston.
No. I mean, I knew a couple of people, they brought some alcohol to school once or twice. They kind of showed it. Ooh, look, I got some beer, I got some whiskey, something like that. And everybody just kind of looked, okay, yeah, and then moved on.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he said, it wasn't like you getting beat up or somebody chasing you down the street because you're walking home from school or offers you some drugs, or you got to run past this little part right here where all the drug dealers hang out.
I want you to start selling heroin for me, or we're going to chop your arm off.
Yeah,
whatever.
I didn't see that. Again, maybe in New York and LA, because it seemed like that's where all of these TV shows were. Maybe it happened there.
Yeah.
But in Boston, South Carolina, in the middle of nowhere, it didn't happen.
No, I guess I figured that was just an agenda that they were trying to push on TV at the time. We have to make it look like this. Teen pregnancy kind of falls into there. Actually, that's the next thing on there.
Yeah, teen pregnancy. Now,
okay, go ahead.
Well, because he was talking about that. Now, I did know some teenagers that were pregnant in high school. The majority of them dropped out of school. And in the 80s, you had the teen pregnancy epidemic. Everything,
or so they said.
Yeah, everything was an epidemic. 90% of the girls in high school are pregnant. When I went to high school, I did know a few girls that were pregnant. It was probably 3, maybe at the max 5. I didn't go to a huge school, but we had a couple of hundred kids in school. You may have had 5. I remember one girl in, I think, 7th or 8th grade that was pregnant. She tried to hide it, wearing this big old winter coat. We're in South Carolina, it's hot. She got this big winter coat, and she was pregnant. Again, in high school, 3, maybe 5 girls were pregnant. It wasn't 90% of the girls, like they say. They didn't have to come up with a special school for girls that were pregnant, because I think it was an after school movie or some type of movie, and they were this epidemic, and we need to create a whole nother school just for teenage moms.
Yeah.
And teenage moms went there, and then after they had their baby, they brought the baby to school, and they taught them how to care for the kid while they still learn.
Yeah. And when I was growing up, I remember one girl who was pregnant in high school. I can't even tell you who it was. I just knew, I was like, oh, that girl's pregnant. But one time, and again, Juvenile Justice Authority, there's a specialty school in Topeka that well, there's two actually. One is Cap City, and that's where you get court ordered to go to school if you're a real badass. And there's another one that's a specialty school for troubled kids. And when I was working with them when I was in JJA, I think they had 2 or 3 girls. There was probably maybe 300 kids in the school. 2 or 3 girls that were, I can't remember the name of it either. I forgot the name of the school, that were bringing kids there. They were bringing a kid in a little bassinet, that was because they were allowed to go there because they had a baby. But growing up, and I think that agenda, that was an agenda that was being pushed at the time because they wanted to do sex education and drug education. When we were growing up, this is when it was originally being introduced into schools. But there wasn't as much of a problem as there is now with those concepts, courtesy of introducing them into schools, because, you know, the government, everything they stick their hands in, they're going to poison. And so they screwed it up because they're acting like, oh, girls are getting pregnant. And they don't understand. They knew what sex was, and they knew what getting pregnant was, okay? And they knew about birth control then just like now. And if they weren't using it then, it's because they didn't want to. And if they're not using it now, it's because they didn't want to. Not because they think if it's a full moon, they won't get pregnant. Or whatever nonsense they would tell you in some of these old shows. And there you go. I mean, we didn't see an epidemic of that either.
No, I mean, I don't know. They made things all weird. But I don't know what the teen pregnancy rate is now. Because, you know, with all of the going on and the sexual confusion going on now, it's probably low. It's probably none.
Boys don't have enough testosterone anymore.
Yeah, they can't produce. Running for class president.
No school that I have ever been in, ever, has had a class president. Junior high, high school, nothing. I've never seen this class president, student body president, anything like that.
Yeah.
Not to say that it doesn't happen, but I've never seen it growing up.
I've never seen it to the level. Okay, one, I don't know if we had ever had a class president. I don't remember ever voting for none. I remember one time in high school we voted for something. I didn't vote, but I remember they passed out a ballot to vote for something. I don't know what it was, but I remember on TV every year, oh, I'm running for class president. They had debates, they had buttons, they had flyers, they had signs. Yeah. And it's like, wow, when I get to high school, they're going to have class president and all this. Like I said, I went to 2 different high schools. Like Napoleon Dynamite, vote for Pedro. It's like the presidential election, the way they have it on TV. You know, but
I think the Topeka High School had like a student body president, but I don't remember them having an election process for it.
So how you get it?
I don't know how it worked. I just heard that they had a student body representative kind of weird thing that they did, but I don't know how it worked.
I'm sure
no one seemed interested in it anyways.
I'm sure we had something. I guess. I can't say I'm sure. I guess there was. I don't know who it ever was. I don't know how they got picked. I don't remember ever voting. Like I said, in high school, I think I was in 12th grade. I remember a ballot coming out to vote for something. I really, honestly, truly don't know what that was about. I remember not voting, and I remember stating that I wasn't going to and throwing it away, but I don't know what it was about. But I know it was nothing like you saw flyers and billboards all over the hallway.
Yeah,
nobody passed
parties
out. Nobody passed out buttons, and you didn't have a debate like you all go to the gym and these 2 people standing there debating.
Yeah,
none of that happened. And I went to 2 different high schools. Yeah, one in Florida, one in South Carolina. None of it happened. So I don't know. We here.
Oh, the teen hangout, like on the Archies. The Archies cartoon. They went to, what is it?
The soda shop.
The soda shop,
yeah. The teen hangout, like the soda shop, the diner, the ice cream shop, like you see on Happy Days. And
oh, yeah, they always went to Al's.
Yeah.
That was the joint.
Yeah.
I don't remember a place specifically like that. There was College Pizza, and a lot of the kids ended up at College Pizza in Coolidge Corner when I was in my high school years. So I don't know if that quite counts, because they might meet up there, but they didn't stay there.
Yeah.
We didn't have an arcade that we frequented. We didn't have a restaurant that we frequented. Just some place that we knew. They went to College Pizza a lot because you can get a slice cheap. A slice of pizza was cheap, so you can grab something to eat real quick. It was like, yeah, meet me at College Pizza at 4, and you go meet this kid and that kid, and then you take off. I don't know about like those hardcore teenage hangouts like you see in a lot of these movies, like Arnold's and Happy Days you had mentioned, where they just stay all day. Everybody goes there. The whole town comes there. I never really experienced that.
I never experienced that, and like the only time I saw kids hanging out, again, I was in a small town, and you had town, because it was like that. You had town where the grocery stores and everything was, but everybody kind of lived miles away. You had some people that lived in town, but like you got together during football games. That was a major event for football season, because all the kids would come out. You didn't watch football, you just walked around and you talked to your friends. And then it was a place that was closed down. When I was a kid, it used to be this place. It was a restaurant, but they would serve you. The girls came out on roller skates, and it would serve you, but they closed it down, but the structure and the building was still there. And some kids, they would come there and meet, and then they'll just drive around back and forth and come back there, and some would talk a little bit, drive around, and people would go there. But it wasn't like a lot of people. It was this group of people, they went there. And then it was a car wash, and some kids, if you had a car and it was a nice car, you went to the car wash, and you wash your car, and you look at your car and talk about your car, and that was that. But it was a certain group went to the car wash, a certain group went to that old restaurant that was no more. But those were the only two places I can remember, outside of like the football game, because the football game was only for that time. But people, it was no restaurant that you hung out in, or a soda shop, or ice cream shop. It was none of that. They didn't have that kind of stuff. So you only had those two places, the car wash and an empty restaurant. But that's it. So I don't know.
I don't know either. You see, oh yeah, that was one.
That's yours.
That's just kind of silly, but I remember one of the things that's depicted a lot in 80s shows and TVs is the person walking around with a giant boombox. Because I've never seen that.
I've seen it once. Once in my whole life. We used to have an annual parade in town. And down the main street, they would have like vendors and all kinds of stuff. It would last a week. And this one guy, one time, had a boombox, and he had it on his shoulder playing his music. And he was walking up and down the main street. Yeah. That's the only one time I seen that.
But like with LL Cool J and My Radio, and he has the big box. I seen a couple of times people walking around with a portable radio. Usually it was a smaller one, like about this big.
Yeah.
But the big boxes, you guys, you don't understand how expensive those things were.
Those things were expensive.
They were unbelievable. They were hundreds of dollars for one of those. So kids weren't just going down to the local hobby shop and or electronics store.
They sold them at Sears.
They don't have electronic stores anymore. But they used to go down there, or you go down there, and you would look in the window and say, wow, I wish I could afford that. But it's like $700. Or even Radio Shack with their cheapy version. But their Tandy radio that had one cassette deck on it. But that stuff was usually out of people's price range.
Yeah.
So I rarely ever saw, and when I did, like I said, it was usually a small one. I saw a bunch of Walkmans or clones of Walkmans, personal cassette players. But as far as like walking around with a big radio on your shoulder, nah, I never really
and
saw
how
any
long
of that.
could you play that? Because, you know, it took like 100 D batteries.
Not that long. That
But,
stuff didn't last.
I wanted one, and they sold it in the Sears catalog.
I want one now.
Yeah, they used to sell it. The one I wanted, they sold in the Sears catalog. And it was a yellow and black one. And I know David tried to look it up, but he couldn't find the one that I was talking about.
Yeah.
I think it's in one of your Christmas catalogs. I think I saw it in there. But anyway, I wanted one. And that thing was like $400. Because I remember I had a little fun. I had a jar on the kitchen table for people to put money in. I could get one.
They were
I never
expensive.
got it. But
Yeah, electronics are cheaper now than they were when we were kids.
yeah, because
Quite frankly.
I always had a radio, but it was a small one where it was just a radio and 2 tape decks. And that's it.
Yeah.
Or you had the big one that you had in your living room with the record player and the tape deck and the radio. And that was it. But no big old boombox you was walking around with on your shoulder. Oh, yeah, this one.
Uh-huh.
Homecoming King and Queen.
I never even been to a prom.
No, the homecoming didn't have to do
Did
with
they have
the
a king and a queen at prom too?
They had a prom king and queen, but they had a homecoming.
I never even been to a prom, and most of the kids didn't give a crap about prom. They were like, I ain't gonna go.
Well,
they didn't
prom
care.
is on here. Well, I
it?
guess we can double it up.
Yeah.
But homecoming was during the football season. So your football team, the first home game was called homecoming because the first couple of games probably was away, and then the first home game was called homecoming. And they had on TV, they had this big deal about homecoming king and queen. And I don't know how they were chosen. I think you voted on TV.
Sure.
In high school, oh yeah, and then you had a homecoming dance, and you crowned the people, and they were usually the popular kids and blah, blah, blah. Now, I remember it one year, they announced the homecoming king and queen. I don't know how they were chosen. We never had a homecoming dance. Nothing happened, you know. They were crowned. They at the football game during halftime, they announced who it was. They went up there. They got their little crown, and I don't know. That was it. But I don't know how they were chosen.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were voted for, or if they looked at their grades or what. But the prom kind of ties in. I went to the prom like 2 times. 11th and 12th grade. But it wasn't that big of a deal. Like on TV, oh, I can't go to the prom because I don't have a date.
And they'd wear like a tuxedo and...
Yeah, you wore a tuxedo.
Did you?
You got dressed up.
I told you I didn't go to prom.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
everybody I ever spoke to was like, I ain't gonna go to prom. Who gives a crap about that?
I think I went 4 times.
Did?
I went every year. I'm serious.
Really?
I went.
Miss Popularity.
But you didn't have to have a date. You could just go.
Yeah.
You just went. Now, they did have a prom king and queen. I don't know how they got chosen. I don't. I remember them announcing it. Nobody, cared. Nobody, kind of really watched. It didn't make that big of a deal. But it wasn't like on TV is, oh, are you going to the prom? Oh, I hope Billy King asked me to go to the prom. No, you just went, you know. You and a group of friends, y'all go to the prom. If you had a date, you had a date. If you didn't have a date, you didn't have a date. But it wasn't that big of a deal. Yeah,
which is what we're suggesting. Is like on TV, they make it sound like it's a have-all and end-all of like childhood experience or teen years experience.
Yeah.
And I never knew anybody that really cared.
I mean, a lot of people went because we didn't have a lot to do where I grew up. So the prom was a thing. I'm not going to say it was a big thing, but you didn't have to have a date. It wasn't like, oh God, I sat home and I didn't go to the prom because I didn't have a date. No, you just went.
Mm-hmm.
You know, got yourself a dress, got yourself a suit, you went to the prom, you danced with your friends, and then you moved on. That was it.
Yeah.
And then the last one.
Driving songs. Driving songs, 99 bottles of beer on the wall, or row your boat, or whatever.
Row your boat is not a driving song.
I don't know, whatever driving song, whatever it is, because I've never ever in my life seen that. Not even on the school buses. The wheels on the bus go round and round. Like they show you on
the Simpsons
TV show. Yeah, they did that on the Simpsons,
Didn't
they?
Ned Flanders' kids used to sing that?
I don't remember. But I have never seen that in real life. Not on school buses, not on any kind of road trip, nothing. I've never seen. And on the bus, if it was attempted, nobody would participate. So, if a monitor tried to get something like that going, nobody was interested, and they'd just stop. They'd stop trying.
Y'all had monitors? We didn't have monitors.
In elementary school, growing up in the 70s, there was a monitor on the full size bus. We had a monitor.
No,
they don't do that anymore unless it's like a Head Start bus. Because I drove for a couple of school bus companies some years ago. But if it was a Head Start bus or a handicap bus, usually you could get a para, they call it now. They don't call it a monitor anymore. Now they call it a para. But otherwise, the regular bus doesn't get one. You have to get authorized to have a para on the bus. And then the para don't do anything anyway, because it's usually some like really advanced elderly person who's retired and just wants a part-time job.
Oh, well. But yeah, driving songs. No. And I went on a lot of road trips as a kid, and we just pretty much sat there.
Yeah.
And that was the end of it.
And that was it. I think that'd get kind of annoying singing 1,000 bottles of beer.
Yeah.
But anyways, did that touch any nerves? Did you experience any of this, or did you never see this?
Or if it's something that we left out, please put it down there. We want to know.
Because I'm sure there's plenty more.
Yeah.
We went on long enough. So thoughts, let us know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. Please do give the video a thumbs up if you get where we're coming from. Share it if you can. Subscribe if you knew all that good stuff. Hope you're enjoying these fading nostalgia and other type discussions. And if that's it, what more can we say? But thanks for watching, and we will see you again soon.